Tracy, Priya, Linda, Jamie, wonderful. Thank you so much for chiming in. I really appreciate that. It's really weird showing up online sometimes like this because it's like I'm sitting in an office by myself talking to the computer and like hoping that somebody's out there. It's a little bit like, message in a bottle out into the void. Sandra, Rose, thank you everyone who is jumping on for the live today. I'm so excited to get together with you guys again. It's been at least a few months since we've done a live in the Wayne Dyer Wisdom community. And I've missed you. I've missed you. It's been a little bit of a crazy holiday season, not quite how I expected it was going to go. There were definitely some challenges December. So, yeah, my timeline has been set back a little bit. So I don't know what you guys have been working on, but maybe your life timelines have been changed a little bit too. Okay, I want to make sure I can see all the comments here. Leanne, thank you. Angie, Sandra, Suzanne, Diane. Wonderful to have you joining me today. Leanne's coming from Calgary, Alberta in Canada. Oh, big hugs to you too, Tracy. Thank you for the message before we joined today. I really appreciate that, all that positive energy that you sent me. So, Tracy is actually going to be one of my guests on the new season of the podcast. So, yes, you heard it right. The podcast is coming back with season 2. So, those of you who have listened to it, it's called Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. And Dr. Wayne Dyer was my greatest teacher. So I discovered him in the 90s when I was a teenager. And he really set me on the path of spirituality and understanding that, what you think about expands. He taught me that, you don't need to put all these limits on yourself, that you can have a bigger life, not bigger in terms of more famous or richer or any of that, not in these ego terms, but that if you can dream it, you can do it. And he taught me to reach for things. And so when Dr. Wayne Dyer died in 2015, I was looking for a group like this. I was grieving his loss. I had been following his teachings the whole time. Oh, hello, Pedram. Thank you for joining. And, he was just a huge influence. He was like a lighthouse for me. And he wrote over 40 books. And I was following him right up until the end. And when I found out that he had died, I was shocked. I was shocked and I was grieving in a way that most people didn't understand. I may be the founder of the Wayne Dyer Wisdom community, but I didn't actually know a lot of people in life who were fans of Dr. Dyer, which is one of the reasons why I started this. When he died, I was looking for a way to keep his teachings going. I wanted to keep reading his books. I wanted to share like a study group with the things that I was reading and listening to, and I wanted to connect with other people who understood. I wanted to connect with other people who were feeling what I was feeling, who were influenced by his teachings and his message and his life. And so I started this group, and a few people joined at first, and it was really small for a long time. And we have almost 100,000 members today. And I can't even tell you what this means to me. And now I'm going to get choked up because to be able to still be talking about the teachings of Dr. Wayne Dyer with people who really get it, with people who were impacted by him, and people who are still discovering him today. It lights me up so much to be in the conversation about spirituality and to be sharing some of these teachings that Wayne Dyer introduced me to. And I think that he's still with us. I know that many of you feel his presence, and I certainly do as well. You'll see behind me, this is a painting I made on the 5th anniversary of his death, and I keep it here with me. It kind of reminds me of how he used to talk about, he had a picture of Lao Tzu on his wall, not a picture. I keep saying that. He had like a drawing of what Lao Tzu might have looked like. And when he was studying the Tao, he would talk to that picture and he'd be like, what did you mean by this verse? And I feel like I can always turn to this and be like, Wayne, what should we talk about today? What is the message here? And that's what I want to do with you today. So back to the podcast. I started a podcast in April of 2020 called Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, because in honor of my greatest teacher, Dr. Wayne Dyer, I wanted to talk about his life. I wanted to talk about the things that he was passionate about, that I'm passionate about, and I wanted to talk to you guys. There's so many amazing people in this group that have stories to share of, turning their darkest moments into their greatest teaching. You can turn your life around. And, bringing people on the podcast and having these conversations, I feel connected to you in a way that really warms my heart and makes me feel on purpose. So we did 30 episodes in season 1. You can learn all about it at my website, nadiadelacruz.com. I'll put a link for that in the comments. Actually, maybe I'll do that right here. nadiadelacruz.com. You can get all the details for the podcast there. And so I've got new episodes coming out. So the first episode of season 2 is coming out this Sunday, February 6th. And I'm going to be talking more about what we're talking about right here today. Wayne's wisdom for the pandemic, for current times, some of his teachings that can help us deal with what we're going through right now. I get questions all the time of, if you've ever asked, what would Wayne say about what we're going through now? This is my answer to that. This is my answer to that question. What would Wayne say about what we're going through right now? Okay, so come check out the podcast. I have some new guests lined up for season 2. As I mentioned, Tracy's coming on. Pedram was, I think, my last guest of the first season, so he's with us today. We both read the same first book from Dr. Wayne Dyer, which was, you'll see it when you believe it. And I'm going to talk about a couple of teachings from this book today. All right, let's get to you guys. Thank you again for being here. If you're watching the replay, drop in the comments, let us know where you're joining from, and any questions or anything. I will be reading all of the comments over the next couple of days and responding to you. So how are you? How have you guys been? How are you right now? Okay, we've been through about 2 years of pandemic life. Living in a world with a pandemic happening. There's a lot of other things happening too, but that's been paramount. How have you been? Have you been keeping yourself busy? Have you been feeling depressed? Have you had ups and downs like most of us? I think that, a lot of people are saying we're going into the 3rd year of the pandemic. Well, let's not project a whole nother year of pandemic. We don't want to do that. We don't need that. Let's just say we're 2 years in, and we're going to see what is going to happen. Pedram says we live in a friendly universe. Yes, that's a choice that we make. Do you live in a friendly or a hostile universe? So many of the teachings that Wayne Dyer gave us absolutely apply to exactly what we're going through right now. That hasn't changed. People think, oh, well, this is different. But every generation and every year and every decade goes through their own challenges. These challenges might be unique for us right now, for our generation, for this time in history, but it's not really unprecedented. This isn't the most difficult thing that we have faced on the planet since the beginning of human history. It's really not. It's challenging. So let's take a moment, what are you feeling right now? And what have you been going through? And put that in the comments. And while you do that, I just want to share a little bit about my perspective. So February, March of 2020, we started hearing about this COVID-19 virus. And at first I didn't think that much of it. I really stay away from the news for the most part. That was one of Wayne's advice, right? Because it's so sensationalized to produce fear and, elicit an emotional reaction, and it's really bad news. It's not it's not good news. It's not balanced news. It's the things that are going to, pull your heartstring and get viewers. So we start hearing about it. I didn't think much of it. Well, I'm in Seattle. And as you may remember, the first cases in the United States were right here in Seattle at a nursing home, a retirement home, assisted living facility just east of Seattle, which is not far from where I live. And there were older people that were dying. And the virus was here. And then it started spreading. And of course, it happened so fast. And we were watching what was happening in Italy, where they had these really strict lockdowns. And you see like people from their windows. And I think you had to get a pass to like go to the grocery store. And then everything seemed like it started to sell out. The big joke was the toilet paper. Why did everybody stock up on toilet paper? But there were other things that were disappearing off the shelves, bread, hand sanitizer, cleaners. So here I am with my husband and my 2 little kids thinking, oh my gosh, like, do we need to stock up on supplies? Are we going to be able to find what we need? Like what's happening here? How does this impact my family? It wasn't just a, gosh, I hope we don't get sick. It was a, what's happening to the stability of society? And then something happened that I didn't think was even possible. They shut down the city. The stores closed, everything closed except for essential goods, at least here. So grocery stores were open, but pretty much everything else was closed for a while. And so I was like, okay, I didn't even know that could happen. And then after a while, they started saying you need to wear masks. And I remember the first time I walked into a grocery store and everybody's wearing masks. And it looked so like post-apocalyptic. You can't see people's faces. Everything's different. I don't think you can go through this and not feel something, And I'm not one of those people who thinks that positivity is everything. I think authenticity is everything. So you won't be getting any toxic positivity from me. So I'm observing this and I'm seeing this and I'm seeing how I feel, and I'm looking at people's eyes in the grocery store and everybody looks like afraid of one another. Do you remember this from the early days? Was it like this where you lived? Maybe it was different. And so we're going through this and it's like, then the schools are shutting down and they thought it was just going to be for a couple weeks or a couple months. And there's been so many waves. So this was the initial wave. So if I were to talk to you back then about what was happening, which was when I started the podcast, by the way, the conversation would be different than it is today. We've had ups and downs, right? I think it was last summer, like everybody was getting vaccinated. There was a lot of hope that this was going to change things. It was going to open up again. For a while here, we didn't need to wear masks and people were really like feeling hopeful and optimistic, and this is done and kids are going to go back to school. And then by the time September rolled around, the numbers had gone up again. School was in question, and it's just like, it hasn't left us. Meanwhile, we've had friends and relatives getting sick. Some people have died. People have lost their jobs. We're seeing all these small businesses shutting down. Like, this isn't something to brush under the rug. This isn't something to ignore. And I'm not saying that any of you are doing that, but there's something called spiritual bypassing, where if you identify as someone who is spiritually awake, then you might go, oh, love and light, like everything's fine. And we don't need to worry about it. Everything's good in my world. But the truth is, a lot of people are struggling. A lot of people have suffered, in very material ways and emotional ways. Families have lost people. I've lost people. So what helps you through it? because these are uncertain times. These are uncertain times. But the truth is that life is riddled with risk. And that our fear may be focused on this virus, or our frustration may be focused on the restrictions, or what are we allowed to do, or what are other people doing, or when is life going to go back to normal. But there are things that you can do, even now, especially now. You still have choices. And when I was researching for this talk that I wanted to give you today, the number one thing that everything I was looking at, that I was studying, that I was thinking about, boiled down to this. Your experience of life is internal, not external. And that makes all the difference. You know, change your thoughts, change your life. Two people could be standing in the same place at the same time and have two very different experiences of the same moment or the same event. And you'll see that with everyone all around you. What you experience is not what is happening out there, but your thoughts and feelings. But your thoughts about what is happening and the feelings that those produce. So what you're experiencing is what you think about what's going on. Hallelujah, Pedram. I'm going to say that again. What you experience is not what is happening, but your thoughts about what is happening and the feelings that those thoughts produce. Everything that Wayne Dyer taught us comes down to this. Your experience of life is internal. Internal. And without even getting into topics like manifestation and the law of attraction, which we will touch on a little bit because Wayne was really passionate about those things. And I think that we need to put that in there. But even if you just want to keep it really simple, right? Change your thoughts, change your life. What you're experiencing is actually happening inside of you. And that you can change. That is where your power is. Do you hear me? Your power is in here. It's in here. Because you can change this. You can change this. So how do we look at things differently? And how can that change living through a pandemic? How can that change living through uncertain times? So I'm going to go into, I believe it's 6 lessons from Dr. Wayne Dyer's teachings from 4 different books. Including some affirmations that he wrote for us about overcoming common excuses. He wants to free us, and I want you to receive this today. So I hope that you do. Okay. I also want to give a shout out to Reverend Charles Foley, who made this t-shirt. He's the one who gave Wayne the Love Period shirt that you probably saw him wearing on stage. I was so fortunate to be able to have him on season 1 of the podcast, so you can look for that. Reverend Charles Foley, he has a website called loveperiod.com, and he sells these shirts. And I wanted to wear this because I love Wayne, and I love love, right? It all comes down to love. But because we're talking about Wayne's wisdom today. So here he is, right here on my heart. All right. Tracy says she agrees 1,000%. It's internal first, and finding that unconditional love for self connected from source. Yes. You are always connected to source. He talked about this in The Power of Intention. It's not whether or not you're connected. You must be connected because you are a spiritual being having a human experience. But it's how corroded is your link to source. How corroded is that? And clean that up, and you open yourself up to all that's possible, to feeling the love of the universe that's all around you. All right. So the circumstances for 2020 through 2022 may be unique, but they're not unprecedented. The same advice that Dr. Dyer provided us since the 70s still contains the same transformative power for our current circumstances. It's not the circumstances that make the man. They reveal him. You know, he talks about the orange that gets squeezed. And what comes out? Orange juice. because that's what's inside. So what's been coming out of you in this time didn't come from out there. It came from in here. And listen, if you've had moments of fear, uncertainty, anger, that's normal. Like, that's okay. We're human. But I want you to come back to center as quick as you can. I want you to have the tools to remember that you are a spiritual being and that your experience of life is internal. Then you come back to your power and you can change your experience of life. As an example, someone who's had a difficult childhood may use this as a reason for why they struggle as an adult. But likewise, someone who had a difficult childhood might use that as the reason why they excel. Example 1, my father was a deadbeat. He was an alcoholic and abandoned the family when I was a baby. My mother was poor and I ended up in an orphanage for several years. This is why I'm stressed all the time. This is why I'm an alcoholic. This is why I never have enough. Example number 2. My father was an alcoholic and left when I was a baby. I ended up in an orphanage. This is where I learned how strong I was. This is where I discovered the positive impact that could help others. This was a training ground for the adult I would become. Example number 2 is, of course, Dr. Wayne Dyer. He was a huge advocate for not using excuses because they only keep you stuck. When you take radical responsibility for the conditions of your life, it actually frees you to overcome and embrace new possibilities. Some people are saying that we're going through now with the pandemic, political division, natural disasters, and violence can't be stopped. That what Wayne says is all nice and good, but it doesn't apply to COVID because the well-wishing can't stop the virus. Now, without even stepping into the realms of manifestation or law of attraction, I can tell you one thing for sure, and that's what we talked about earlier. Your experience of life is internal, and therefore you can change it. COVID could keep spreading, people might keep fighting, and you could simultaneously improve your experience of life without needing to change anything external. Do you want that? Do you want to feel free again? Right now, we have the ideal circumstances to test out your ability to influence how you feel every day. I want you to take that opportunity and run with it. Stop reciting all the reasons why you can't be happy and start looking for all the things that you love. Focus on what you do want, and you'll be planting those seeds. And if you want a deeper truth, remember this. You are a spiritual being having a human experience. You are so much more than this body or even this one life. Dr. Dyer used to say that there are no accidents in a perfect universe. What if there's a bigger picture here that we can't see? That's called faith. Louise Hay used to say, life loves you. Dr. Terry Gordon, who was on my podcast in year 1, he's good friends with Dr. Wayne Dyer, and he wrote a book called No Storm Lasts Forever. Wonderful book. And he shared inspiration that he was given in his darkest moment, which was treat this as if you had chosen it. What if every time you came upon something challenging in your life, you looked at it and instead of, condemning it and swearing at it and getting mad at it, what if you said, why might I have chosen this? What could I gain from this? What can I learn from this? What if you chose to be alive at this time, in this place, with this family? Why might you have done that? What lessons might you learn? What blessings could come from this? What changes would this time inspire that might have really been needed? That's a wonderful question. What blessings could come from this? Okay, the first lesson I want to talk about comes from pulling your own strings. Oh, look at this old copy. Oh, I love it. I collect some of his books, as you can imagine. Some of them are signed. I don't think this one's not. Gosh, this was from the 70s. Let me look at the date. 77, copyright 1977. Dr. Wayne Dyer, Pulling Your Own Strings. Oh my gosh, you got to see him on the beach. He looks like a lifeguard. I love it. Okay. In Pulling Your Own Strings, he talks about fear. And I think that's pretty relevant to what a lot of people are experiencing right now. And he says, fear is something that resides in you. Most of the reasons, this is a quote from Wayne, most of the reasons you'd give yourself for not operating from strength involve some kind of fear of what will happen if. You may even admit that you are often paralyzed by fear. But what is it that you think comes from somewhere out of the blue and immobilizes you? If you started on a scavenger hunt today and you were told to bring back a bucket full of fear, you could look forever, but you'd always come back empty-handed. Fear simply does not exist out there in the world. It is something that you yourself are due to yourself by thinking fearful thoughts and having fearsome expectations. You may be victimized because you've convinced yourself that some people won't like you, or that some disaster will befall you, or that any of thousands of other excuses if you do things your way. But the fear is internal. And it's supported by a neat little system of thoughts, which you cleverly use to avoid dealing directly with your self-imposed dread. If you have a guarantee that everything will be all right before you take a risk, you will never get off first base because the future is promised to no one. I love that quote from him. The disasters you envision will rarely surface. Remember the ancient sage who said, "I'm an old man. I've had many troubles, most of which have never happened." Life is lived in our own heads. If you remember nothing else from today but that, remember it's all happening in here. And these thoughts are producing your feelings. And those feelings are your experience of life. This is a really important epiphany. We feel so justified in our fears right now because it's being blasted to us on every news channel and social media platform. But the truth is, life is full of danger. It's everywhere you turn. Wayne used to say that life is a sexually transmitted terminal condition. So I want to ask you this. What happens if we beat COVID and the pandemic goes away forever? Will the fear go away too? No, we would simply transfer that fear onto other things. Were you afraid before 2020? What were you afraid of? Cancer, injury, heartbreak, war, gun violence, global warming? These risks are still here. And if you cultivate fear, it will simply find a new focus. The key here is to learn how to be okay in the midst of chaos, not in the absence of it. If you can be okay now, when seemingly everyone is telling you to be scared and immobilized, then you will have gained some really valuable life skills. I want you to be okay. Pandemic or no pandemic, war or peace, illness or health, and I really believe that you can. We're not immune to death, loss, illness, and pain. Wayne wasn't. But it is through these times that we discover our true selves and find the real joy in life. Feel your fear and live anyway. Maybe you're not going to erase the fear that you feel about getting sick with COVID or one of your loved ones who maybe is immune compromised, but you can still live your life and you can still make choices. Angie says, how do I deal with going out and living life as if COVID doesn't exist? Well, I don't think you have to live as if COVID doesn't exist, but you can take the actions to be reasonably cautious and go out anyway. Fear doesn't keep you safe. Fear is not what motivates safety. In fact, it immobilizes you. So think about this. Okay. So my husband and I have a lot of conversations about, where are we at right now? What decisions do we make as a family? Do we feel like it's safe for the kids to go here or do that? Or, are we going to visit family for the holidays? Are we not going to visit family for the holidays? And these conditions are constantly changing. But you can make choices to be cautious. Like, okay, we're going to take our kids to the playground, but we're going to put masks on. So now you've made your choice, right? So you put your mask on and you go to the park and you don't worry about it and you use your hand sanitizer before you get in the car. So you make choices. You make choices about safety. Those are different choices than if we didn't have COVID. Those are different choices than if the conditions were different in the world right now. But you don't need to carry that fear outside with you, My choices for what I do out in the world have changed. But on the good days, I'm not afraid. It makes no sense to worry about that which you have control over. And it makes no sense to worry about that which you have no control over. So what does that leave behind? I'm not asking you to pretend that this doesn't exist. I'm asking you not to let the fear control you. Pedram says 1,200 people die daily due to car accidents. Does that prevent us from driving? There's risks in everything. You could choke on a grape in your house. You could fall down. You could be hit by lightning, right? I used to work in Bellevue, and there's all these big buildings, corporate buildings, but there's also some like condos and apartment buildings down there. And they were doing construction, and there was this big crane that was working on one of the buildings. Well, some accident happened one day, and that crane crashed. It went across the street into the window of a condo and crushed a guy who was sitting there on his couch. Is that something that he was afraid of? Probably not. Is that something he saw coming? No. We don't know. We don't know when our time is. And we don't know what's going to take us out, but it's probably not what you're afraid of. It's probably something else. So fear is an energy that we cultivate. And the more you think about it, the more you feed it. You feed it and it grows. You could sit here and be afraid of cancer. A lot of people are. You could be afraid of a car accident. You could be afraid of a plane crash. You could be a lot of people are really afraid of flying because of that. But you might die of a blood clot or brain aneurysm or something totally random. So what sense does it make to worry about it? That's not to judge the fears as they're happening. It's to disempower those fears. Take your power back. It's this, you can't ever really feel safe. Maybe that's a hard pill to swallow. It is for me. But your soul is eternal. Wayne used to say, nobody dies before it's their time. Well, he was 75, doing what he loved, full of life, and he died of a heart attack. Maybe he did what he came here to do. Maybe that was his time. So if it's not your time, COVID's not going to get you. If it is your time, then maybe it's COVID, maybe it's something else. It makes sense to be cautious. It doesn't make sense to be afraid. That fear is not going to help you. Don't feed that fear. Listen to it. I hear you. I know. But listen, move aside. We're going to be okay. right? I've got spirit on my side. That's faith. From my experience, the antidote to fear is faith. It's about to get personal. When my father died, I felt a lot of fear. A lot of fear. And I realized that his presence was something that helped me to feel safe. And him dying so suddenly made me feel not safe at all. Wayne was somebody else who made me feel safe in the world. But the thing is, anything can happen. It's a frigging miracle that you're here at all, that life exists at all, that you, the unique person that you are, is here alive at this time. That is a miracle. So why are we focusing on the wrong things? Why are we focusing on death? Death is easy. Death is, you don't even need to worry about it. When it happens, it'll happen. And I bet it's going to be really freeing, actually. If it's your time, I bet it's going to be really freeing. Life is what requires your attention. Life requires your participation. Put your focus there. Cultivate that. Thank you, Diane. Much love to you as well. Okay, let's move on to our next lesson. And this one is from, you'll see it when you believe it. This was his first spiritual book and the first book that I read from him. And it was life-changing for me. I love this book. He's got 7 one-word concepts in 7 chapters. And here they are: transformation, thought, oneness, abundance, detachment, synchronicity, and forgiveness. This is a great one. So the first thing that I want to talk about from You'll See It When You Believe It is, I'm going to read you a quote. Whatever you are currently against can be restated and rethought so as to promote abundance in your life. Everything that you are against blocks you from abundance. Everything. Decide to get your life working in a positive rather than a negative style. If you're against terrorism and war, you become part of the problem. You are one more soldier fighting for what you believe in. And fighting always weakens you and brings more scarcity into your life. Instead of being against terrorism or war, try being for peace. Once you are for peace, you will start directing your thoughts and consequently your actions in that direction. You will become a peacemaker simply by not being against anything. This may sound like semantic juggling, but it is much more than that. Once you are focused on something that you favor, you will expand that in your life. Have you pitted yourself against coronavirus? Are you at war with COVID? You cannot cultivate peace by being at war with anything. Even cancer would probably do better by surrounding it with love, rather than waging a war against your own body. Instead, try being for health. Choose food and activities that promote well-being. If you're against the virus, you're putting energy into it. What you resist persists, and I mean persists in your thoughts. In your internal experience of life. You're going to think more of it. You're going to feel more of it. You're going to see more of it. You're going to notice more of it. Is that really what you want? I don't think it is. And underneath this fear of the virus is a fear of getting sick. And underneath that fear is actually a desire for well-being, is a desire for health and strength and freedom. So if you focus on those things, you will expand that in your life. Are you fighting against division? Try sending love to those who think differently than you. Remember that we are all souls. All of us are souls, having a human experience. Are you raging against lockdowns? Instead, try promoting things that invoke a sense of freedom. Remember that you always have choices. Go for a walk, change your hair, advocate for changes in local and state government. It's just a shift. You just start shifting the way you think about things, and you'll find where your power is. That's how you come back to wholeness. You don't have to wait on anybody else to do that for you. If you put the blame on anything or anybody outside of you, then you are beholden to them. You are stuck. You are a victim to that situation, and that situation or that person must change before you can be okay. Is that really how you want to live? Because I want to tell you, you have a different choice. There is another way. Change your circumstances or change the way you think about your circumstances. And while in the pandemic, maybe we can't change the fact that there's a virus out there. But you can change what you do with your time. You can change what you do with your thoughts. And you can approach everything differently. Get so busy, focused on planting the seeds for all the things you want in your life that you forget about what's happening out there. And I guarantee you, you will feel a lot better without having to wait for things to get better. Okay. Second lesson from You'll See It When You Believe It is what you think about expands. Ooh, I love this one. If your thoughts are on getting all that you can and beating the other guy who you believe is trying to do you in, then you're constantly thinking about, worrying about, and planning on the notion of deception. Your thoughts are focused on the dishonesty of the other guy and the callousness of the world. That is what will expand in your life because that is what you are thinking about. Consequently, you'll find yourself getting more and more fearful about being cheated, insuring yourself against the possibility, hiring attorneys to protect you, and loading yourself up with adversaries. You literally put yourself in an adversarial relationship with almost everyone you meet. And sure enough, you find this thing continuing to expand. Focus on what you do want. Stop indulging in the news stories that only focus on salacious, fear-inspiring headlines. Plant seeds for your life by focusing on beauty, health, wellness, and connection. What is the best case scenario for you this year? Really spend some time thinking about that and envisioning your ideal environment. If you could think about this year, 2022, how is it going to go? What's it going to look like when springtime comes around? What do you want to grow and cultivate in your life? How do you want to feel? What do you want to experience? Daydream on that, and you are already in the process of manifesting it. Pedram adds that any level of anger, resentment, or fear is just feeding the fire. Yeah. We need to bring love. We need to bring love. Love will expand all the things that you want. Fear blocks you from it. Imagine the best case scenario for this year and start taking action on it. All right, let's go to Excuses Be Gone. Dun, 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 dun. Here's my copy. He has a great PBS special on this one too. Do you guys remember Dan Caro? He's the drummer who was burned as a child, and he has no fingers. And he's a drummer. I got to speak with him last year before, 2020, on the podcast. You can look for that episode. He's fantastic. The PBS special for Excuses Be Gone, he's on there. This is a good one. So here's what he has to say in Excuses Be Gone. Can I make dramatic changes in the way I live? Is it possible to change self-defeating thoughts and behaviors that have been my constant companions for as long as I can remember? Can I really do a U-turn and deprogram myself when I've never known any other way to think and act? Is it even feasible or practical for me to contemplate removing these old and familiar ways of being and open myself up to a brand new me? This book is my answer to these questions. Yes, there is a way available to you right here and now. You can relinquish any unwanted but long-held thoughts that have become your self-definition. Every self-limiting thought that you employ to explain why you're not living life to the absolute fullest, so you're feeling purposeful, content, and fully alive, is something that you can challenge and reverse. Regardless of how long you've held that belief, and no matter how rooted in tradition, science, or life experience it may be. I'm going to say that again. Every self-limiting thought that you have to explain why you're not living life to the fullest is something you can challenge and reverse. Wayne Dyer said when he wrote this book, I've written so many books about what to think, but this is how to change your ingrained thought pattern. So if you're one of those people who's really struggling with, well, how does this apply now? Try reading Excuses Be Gone. You might find something in there that will help you. Even if it seems like an insurmountable obstacle, you can overcome these thoughts. And you can begin by noticing how they've been working to hold you back. Then you can embark on a deprogramming effort that allows you to live an excuse-free life. One day at a time, one miracle at a time, one new belief at a time. There's a lot of common things that have come up with the pandemic, and people think that everyone's experiencing the same thing, and this is just how it is because of the pandemic. Like gaining weight, getting depressed because you lost your job, being lonely because you can't see your friends, refusing to leave the house because you're so afraid of getting sick, substance and alcohol abuse, and thinking that you just can't feel happy until everything goes back to normal. But I want to tell you that even though it may not be in the headlines, there are a lot of people that have actually turned their life around during this time. You can start exercising at home and going to the gym. There are people who are in the best shape of their life right now. Spend some time thinking about the best case scenario instead of the worst case. Maybe you lost your job, and it gives you the opportunity to start studying for a career change. Maybe you really hated that job, and it was a terrible fit, and it was stressing you out. So when you lost that job, you lost the stress of that work environment. Now, we all need money to survive. I'm not going to downplay that. But there are opportunities here if you look for them. You can find new ways of staying connected. Maybe you're video chatting with family members that you never used to do that with. There are so many digital opportunities that we weren't using before because this pushed us in that direction. And some of it is a really beautiful thing. You can even see the doctor on your phone or computer. People who are working from home now, they can pay more attention to what they eat and cook from home and fix a salad and, enjoy our little outings when we do go out for our groceries or explore a local park, The bird is not afraid of the branch breaking because it has confidence in the power of its own wings. So instead of focusing on the fear of what happens if, try cultivating trust in yourself. Trust in your body, faith in your well-being. Your natural state is health and wellness. There are a lot of things that can interfere with that. So let's not add to it. Cultivate health. Now, in his book, Excuses Be Gone, it's page 62 on mine. I don't know if it's the same on yours. But he has 18 common excuses and affirmations that go with them. So I picked 8 out of those that I thought were particularly relevant to what we're dealing with now. I hope this is going to be helpful. What I love is that he wrote these affirmations. And Louise Hay was a big proponent of affirmations. And Wayne Dyer used to write them on sticky notes and put them all over his house and in the bathroom and in his car. He really did do that. So please feel free to put affirmations everywhere. It also works great to put it as the wallpaper on your cell phone. That's another way to see that every day. Okay. Common excuses and affirmations to overcome them. Number 1. You ready? It will be difficult. Here's his affirmation. I have the ability to accomplish any task I set my mind to with ease and comfort. I'll share these in the group later so you don't have to write them down. Excuse number 2, it will take a long time. Affirmation, I have infinite patience when it comes to fulfilling my destiny. Excuse number 3, no one will help me. The affirmation, the right circumstances and the right people are already here and will show up on time. Doesn't that feel good? Excuse number 4, I'm not strong enough. Ooh, that's a good one right now. Here's your affirmation. I have access to unlimited assistance. My strength comes from my connection to my source of being. You're already connected to source. Tune in. You'll get your strength there. You'll get your answers there. Excuse number 5, the rules won't let me. Here's your affirmation. I live my life according to divine rules. Now, I'm not telling you to be a rule breaker, but nobody else really controls you. Even now, you have choices. There may be consequences, but you do have choices. And you need to be self-directed. You need to do what feels right to you. And if everybody's saying, oh, it's safe, let's go to this concert, and you feel like, maybe it's not safe yet, then don't go. Just because somebody else says it's okay or not okay, doesn't mean it's that for you. You need to tune in. Excuse number 6, it's too big. This is pretty big. Here's your affirmation. I only think about what I can do now. By thinking small, I accomplish great things. He got that from the Tao. Excuse number 7, I don't have the energy. Affirmation, I feel passionately about my life, and this passion fills me with excitement and energy. And excuse number 8, I'm too scared. Here's your affirmation. I can accomplish anything I put my mind to because I know that I am never alone. I love that. Joe says, I hope this will be available on replay. Yes, Joe, thank you for watching while you're getting ready for work. The replay will be available. You can also, I go into a little bit more detail on this on the first podcast episode, which comes out on Sunday. So go to nadiadelacruz.com to check that out, or message me and I'll give you the details. But yeah, the replay will be in the group. So yeah, have a good day at work. We'll see you later. Okay. Meditation. Let's see. Where are we at now? Manifest Your Destiny. Anybody read this book? The 9 Spiritual Principles for Getting Everything You Want. Ooh, this sounds like a good one. It is a good one. I mean, they're all good. You can't go wrong with Wayne Dyer. Do you inherently trust yourself and your decisions? Are you weighed down with troubles or unresolved issues in your life? See the second principle. Yeah, this is about manifestation. This is about not being a victim to what's happening out there or what other people are doing. It's about taking charge and remembering that you are a being of light and you are a manifester. You are co-creating your experience of life here. And you are so much bigger and more powerful and more connected to everything than you could even dream of. And if you don't feel it, then you're going to have to trust me on that and keep connecting to Source, and one day you will feel it. So a great way to connect to Source is meditating. So he says, manifesting and meditating cannot be separated. They are like the crest and the trough of the wave, separate and distinct from each other, but always together. You cannot become adept at manifesting the desires of your heart if you're unwilling to devote time to the practice of meditation. Now, the meditation that he's talking about in this book is Meditations for Manifesting, which is actually one of my favorite guided meditations from Dr. Wayne Dyer. So I did look it up for you just to see where it's available. If you go to Hay House, you can get it as a CD or an audio download. He does his meditation in the morning and his Om meditation at night. You can also find it on Audible, or Spotify has it under Hay House Meditations. It's called Dr. Wayne W. Dyer Morning Meditation. That's the one. If you look on YouTube, there's links there too. For Dr. Wayne Dyer's meditation. I'm not sure what they call it. Meditation, maybe? So if you don't already have a meditation practice, now's a great time to start one or recommit to one. Or, it doesn't have to be guided meditation. It doesn't have to be a following the breath or some kind of traditional meditation practice. If you just give yourself some time every day to be still, come into this moment, connect with the energy of source, connect to divine guidance. You will benefit from that every single day. And that will help you to know what actions to take when things seem uncertain, and to cultivate what's for your best and highest good. Because I think if we do it all up here, it's coming from the wrong place. And here we have an opening to spirit. So if you listen to your heart, you're getting closer. And if you spend some time communing with the energy of source, through meditation or for being out in nature or just taking a quiet moment, listening to music sometimes, or sound healing can be really helpful for that. If you have a favorite way of meditating, please share it in the comments, and that might help somebody else. All right. One last lesson here. I'm going to read you what he says about detaching from outcome. Banish doubt and enter the realm of certainty. When you have removed the doubt about your ability to manifest, it will be easy to detach yourself from the outcome and all of the details. Your trust in yourself and in the divine energy of the universe is all that you will need. Leave your expectations and go about your business once you have put your meditation out into the universe through the opening of the third eye. Simply forget about it and get on with the business of your daily life. Do not keep looking for reasons to disbelieve your ability to attract to yourself what you desire. Thank you, Wayne. So when he talks about manifestation, he's talking about, imagine the feeling of your wish fulfilled. So let's say maybe your wish goes something like this. I want COVID to be gone. Okay, well, what does that really mean? Well, I don't want to be afraid anymore. Now we're getting closer to the heart of it. So if you can imagine being in the world without fear, imagine how that feels in your body. How does that look in your day? Cultivate that feeling and really hold on to it. Feed it into your cells. And then detach from outcome. You spend some time placing your intention, experiencing the feeling of that wish fulfilled, and then letting it go, trusting that it's already on its way. Then you have peace of mind. So if you'd like to dive deeper into some of the lessons that we talked about today, we went into Dr. Wayne Dyer, pulling your own strings. You'll see it when you believe it. Excuses be gone, and manifest your destiny. But honestly, you can't go wrong with anything from Dr. Dyer. All his teachings are universal and relevant and can absolutely be applied to the specific details of what we're going through today. This is not an exception, folks, right? This is more of the same. If you're having uncertainty and fear and you want to take control of your life, like Wayne Dyer gave us all these tools. Now, if you've ever asked what would Wayne say about what we're going through now, this is maybe a few pieces that came to my mind. It's my interpretation of what he would tell us. But you know what I really think he would say? If we were like, Wayne, we need your wisdom. Like, what would you tell us about what we're going through now? You know what he would say? He'd say, I wrote it all down for you. I wrote it all down. Go to my books, listen to my lectures. Like, he created a whole library for us. And we can use that for our whole lives. And I will be using that for my whole life. Because he brought me to the wisdom of the ages. And I am so grateful. I am so grateful that he opened my mind in a way that nobody else did. He started me on this path of exploring spirituality, which just means understanding that we are more than this body. Having a spiritual perspective means that there's more going on than what meets the eye. There is an energy behind all things. You are a being of light, and you are connected to all that is. Thank you for being here. If you have any other questions, please post them in the group or drop a comment, and I will be checking those out. Diane, thank you so much. Pedram, thank you. Joe, everybody who joined me today. It's been a real honor. I love this community. You guys mean so much to me. Being able to have these conversations means so much to me, and I look forward to connecting with you in more ways. I am starting a Patreon page for the podcast, and I'm going to be doing some Zoom calls so that we'll actually get to see each other face to face. So if you become a subscriber, there's going to be that opportunity. I do have a mug that I've made with this painting on it that's also going to be a bonus for my Patreon subscribers. And yeah, I've got more episodes coming. We're going to have some incredible guests for season 2. Go to nadiadelacruz.com. You can learn all about the podcast there. You can listen to it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and so many more. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Anything you want to add to this, share it in the group. I love speaking with you guys, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Joan, Rose, Hannah, Suzanne, Tracy, thank you so much. It means the world to me that we are here together and that we have been through some challenging things. But I see a light at the end of the tunnel, and that light comes from in here. Love to you all. Namaste.